Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I'm joined by just one of my gaming dads. Mr. Parris Lilly is back on the show. A little flip-flopping from week to week right now, but I got you, Parris, and I know you're a little under the weather, so I'll keep it short for the intro. How you doing today?
Yeah, a little under the weather. People might have been following me on social media. I was in the great state of Kentucky last week, and I think I don't feel well this week because I ate White Castle while I was there. But that was on video games.
I love it. Parris has been taking shots at different fast food restaurants around the nation here on the Xcast. So make sure to tune in each and every week to see which one he throws hate at the
and
next
he should
one.
continue to say it.
I'm just saying.
People like it, Parris. You know, Barrett loves it, running the ones and twos. So I need you to keep bringing that energy each and every week. But I'm going to let you rest for just a moment because this week, filling in for Gary Whitta is one of my heroes, one of my mentors, one of my bosses here at KindaFunny. Of course, it is Tim Gettys, the master of hype, coming on over from the Gamescast, making a rare appearance here on the KindaFunny Xcast, filling in today. So, Tim, thank you so much for taking that third seat. How are you, homie?
Dude, I am fantastic. I'm so excited to be here. I don't think I've ever done a show with this group of people, so that's exciting to me. It's rare I'm on the Xcast. It's always a great time to be on the Xcast. I'm not sure if I've ever been on a full Xcast, though. I think this might be my first time, so I'm excited to see what it's all about.
Well, we're happy to have you, Tim, and I want you to know that this week's episode is tailored all to you. I have a couple of fun news stories and some fun topics for us to talk about, kind of right in your ballpark wheelhouse, because next week will be episode 100 of the KindaFunny Xcast. We're going to celebrate the big anniversary and the big milestone in a fun, awesome way by having on some special guests and just talking all things Xbox. But that's next week. This week, I wanted to make sure we can talk to you, Tim Gettys. But before we do that, Parris, I have to turn my attention to you because last week you missed out on the episode. Of course, good friend of the show, Jez Corden, came on from Windows Central Gaming and the Xbox 2 podcast. Him and Gary started talking about a fabled, maybe dream Xbox handheld. And I need to come to you because you always bring the real with me, Parris Lilly. Okay, I need the real. Those two got my head up in the clouds, hoping one day for an Xbox mini handheld. Bring the real. Xbox handheld, yay or nay in your book? Are we doing this or what?
Nay. Nay, for the simple fact that, and I don't have it right as behind me, but the Steam Deck has changed the game. It's completely changed the game on how we're going to look at handhelds moving forward. I think Xbox would be better off having their games on whatever Steam Deck 2.0, Valve makes it, whoever winds up making. But as you continue to iterate on this current handheld, they're better off having their games there. Technically, they already have some of their games on the Steam Deck because any native Steam game right now from Xbox is playable on the Steam Deck. So I don't think Microsoft or Xbox needs to invest the R&D on their own specific handheld just to play Xbox games. I think they piggyback off of whatever the Steam Deck initiative is going to be, because I'm sure there's going to be other companies out there that are going to start making hardware, just make their games available on it. I think the biggest thing they could do is if they got Game Pass native on a handheld. So you can just download whatever's on Game Pass. Because like right now on the Steam Deck, I can play cloud games from Game Pass on there. Works great. But if you could natively download games on a handheld for the Steam Deck, I think that makes more sense than them just making their own handheld to play native games when technically they already have xCloud. You have a Steam Deck out there now. Just, iterate on that versus making your own. And I know Jez doesn't agree with me, but that's fine.
He does not, but I agree with you on that, Parris. That was my big point of contention from those two was I felt like I needed to be able to download games onto this said handheld. They were really pushing for a cloud-only device. And for me, with the bad mountain internet or the idea of maybe subscribing to another phone service or some sort of service to allow me to have, access out on the go wasn't really what I wanted as my cup of tea. So I was looking for more download my games and be able to play them on the go. Tim Gettys, you're a guy. You've had a PS Vita in your day. You've had plenty of coworkers now with a Steam Deck. Where do you fall on an Xbox dedicated handheld?
I'm definitely closer to Parris on this, where I think the time has come and gone for Xbox to get into the handheld gaming sphere in the way that we traditionally think about it. I think that the Steam Deck is still a niche product at the end of the day. I think that it's definitely for enthusiasts, and I don't see it ever kind of gaining the popularity of something like a Nintendo Switch, just surely because of the audience that would be interested in that type of thing. And I think that if Xbox were to do their own handheld console, I think that it's going to be more iterative of what we've seen them kind of building towards with xCloud and all that stuff. Unfortunately, Mike, I don't think we'd be getting one where you can actually download things straight to the console itself. It would be more cloud-based. I don't think the tech's quite there yet, but they're clearly working on it, and they're clearly trying to make it a thing. I don't know that we'll ever get a dedicated Xbox handheld that they're pushing as an Xbox handheld in the way that PlayStation did with the PSP or the Vita, or Nintendo's done with Game Boys, DS's, now the Switch being a hybrid. I can see them, though, coming out with a suite of cloud based hardware. So whether it's like a little drive, like a Chromecast type thing that allows you to just play on smart TVs that don't have the Xbox Game Pass stuff built right in, or things like potentially a handheld version of that might be like stripped down on the tech side of things in terms of like what it can do, but it is more just for being a new, different way to play your cloud games and your Game Pass library. Because I mean, look what they've even done with xCloud on iOS and Android, right? Like, I think that it's not too crazy to think that they'd put out their own Android based system, whatever it is, that allows you to play xCloud games handheld. But I don't think it would be a giant market push for them into the handheld kind of vertical of what gaming has been. I just think overall where people play games has changed a lot dramatically the last 10 years. And I think that with things like the Steam Deck finally finding success, right? We've had kind of like Steam hardware in the past. We've even had a multitude of emulation based like hardware that people can buy all the different retro things. But the Steam Deck it's this perfect mold of timing being perfect for the hardware to be right, the price to be like not completely unreasonable, and it just works. Like, that's the thing, is it's built off the back of having that Steam library and having things like Parris was talking about, of having like the limited ability of having xCloud here or there, whatever it is, but then also having all the emulation stuff. Like, that is great. But it's for enthusiasts. It's a very different kind of business proposition than trying to get a handheld out there to as many people as possible, which I think Xbox isn't there yet. I don't know that they're ever necessarily going to be, but I think they're going to keep focusing more on cloud as a concept as opposed to the hardware.
Well said there, Tim Gettys. Before we jump into the show, Parris, I got to check in with you. You got that new Samsung TV yet? Are you playing xCloud on the TV yet? Because I need to know.
No, I do not have that new 2022 Samsung TV because that's what you need to be able to play the Samsung Gaming Hub on it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to be able to get hands on with that at home, to be able to truly test it out, because, got to use it at Summer Game Fest and it worked great. But even when I was talking about it during that time, some of the comments that I was getting back on like social media were people like, yeah, but that's you're in a closed environment. That's not real world. And I agree. I think here there's two problems with the Gaming Hub. The fact that it's only on Samsung 2022 TVs, and then with all the supply issues that we have right now, even if you want to get one, can you realistically just run out to the store and go get one right now? This feels like a very soft launch for this initiative of what they're trying to do. It doesn't feel practical yet, because I think the people that would truly be interested in using this probably are like, I have an LG TV. I already have a high-end TV, so I'm not necessarily going to go run out and go buy a brand new 2022 Samsung TV. And even if I want to go do that, is it even available? So I think this is a great start. This is a great marketing press release to be able to say, hey, we partner with Samsung and we have the Xbox app. It kind of goes back to what Tim was saying. Eventually, we'll see iterations of this where there'll be like a separate dongle, things like that. But I mean, realistically, for them to have the market share that they're looking for and to get more people actually trying out cloud gaming, be it with an app on your smart TV, they got to have more partnerships. They obviously got to partner with LG. Believe it or not, probably partner with Sony, right? Because you want to get it on Sony TVs as well. TCL on down the line. But that's probably 2023 and beyond. Realistically, here in 2022, I'm not expecting too many people to have hands-on with it, which is a shame because what I got to play was great. I would love to do it more. I'd love to have it in my house and be able to tell my wife, here, just press the button on the controller and go play. And we can't do that yet. So hopefully as we go into 2023 and beyond, they'll get more of these devices out and make more of these partnerships with these other TV manufacturers so they can get that Xbox app, to the masses.
I think that's an interesting point too, is that the idea of the Samsung thing that we demoed at SGF, like it's not a Microsoft.
Oh, that's right.
thing.
You were there. You played it too.
Yeah, I got to play it too. I had a great experience with it as well. Like even it being a controlled environment. But what's interesting is that it is not an Xbox app. Right. It is a Samsung gaming app that Xbox is just a part of. And the demo we did was Xbox focused and there's an Xbox partnership, but they are creating this hub to kind of just be a gaming hub on the smart TV that allows you to also potentially do down the line Ubisoft or GeForce Now or whatever it is, all the other cloud streaming services. Or gaming services. So I'm interested in that they're kind of pushing forward with this. And I think that like you said, it's a very good start. Like this is not what we all are looking for, but you need to have those baby steps of kind of proof of concept and making it work. And I think that this all started back with like Gaikai and stuff, even like moving into the early PS4 days, but really kind of getting, PS Now and then eventually Stadia and then eventually xCloud. And I think that Xbox has, I think easily the best offering currently because of its ties with Game Pass to xCloud as one thing. So getting that in more places is only going to benefit more people. We always talk about best value in gaming, XYZ, we get it. But it's just an even better value when eventually I'll be able to play my game downstairs. And then when I want to go upstairs and I'm in bed, and I'm like, you know what? I just want to pop on for a little bit, not having to have a physical console upstairs. I have my Xbox Series X down here, but I could just pop on and play on cloud easily on a smart TV. That is kind of the dream scenario. And I think that you really got to look at who is the intended audience for this type of stuff. When we're talking about this tech, there's two sides to it. One side is the people, the techies that care the most and that have the consoles, and people like me that want to be able to play their games and just take them upstairs and not have to have an extra console and all that stuff.
Right.
That's one sector. The other sector, though, is the people like my friends that grew up loving video games, but now they're having kids, they're getting older, they have real jobs, not like this. And it's like they love Halo, but they haven't played Halo Infinite yet. But if I told them, yo, you just need Game Pass, your smart TV has an app that allows you to play Halo Infinite, they'd play Halo Infinite. And I think that those are the people that Microsoft are betting on and Samsung as well. But it takes everyone kind of working as a team, and it takes failures. It's going to take things like Stadia and all of us kind of like looking at it, be like, this isn't going to work, because one day it's going to. And I feel like with what we got to experience with Samsung, it's the closest thing I've seen to like, yo, this is working. And I feel like I keep saying that the more different technology that comes out and the more things that I try with xCloud or all these other things, remote play, even with PlayStation, like I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing, and I'm impressed with where it's at now, which is so far from where it needs to be. So for us to kind of, I see the pipeline, I see what they're going to do. And once they make that dongle, which I do think is inevitable, and I think the idea of buying a new TV because of this feature is ridiculous. Don't do that. It's not worth it. It's not a good idea. You're not, it's bad. There's going to be a dongle eventually, and it's going to just work. But when's eventually? I would bet it's within the next year.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. And just kind of go down this cloud gaming rabbit hole for just 1 second. You also have to remember, it's not about us. People that are watching or listening to this podcast right now, it's really not about us. If you think about what Microsoft's strategy is, they say they want to reach billions of gamers. We're already gamers. We're already playing games. We're already buying hardware. We're already interacting. When I think about cloud gaming, because it is inevitable, it's going to happen. I know a lot of people are going to go with it kicking and screaming. But as the infrastructure improves, as latency is reduced when you have a controller in your hand and you're interacting with the game, and as they get more, I talk infrastructure, they get it into more emerging markets. I'm telling you right now, Africa is a gold mine for technology, because it's simply not there yet. And as they continue to build out these data centers and infrastructures in places like that, I think Africa, I think India, there's other places obviously in the world as well that are emerging markets, that as you get more technology there, maybe there's not an Xbox readily available, but they already have that mobile phone. They already have a mobile phone. 5G is now readily available. You just download the app. They just start playing.
Yeah.
That's how you get more people playing these games. That's, like you said, that dongle is going to happen. I'd be shocked if it's not next year, but that's going to happen. And when all I have to do is plug that in like I would an Amazon Fire Stick, and now magically I have the Xbox app with Game Pass, and there's the Netflix and the Disney Plus and all that comes with it. Bundle it with the controller. I press a button, I'm playing. That's it. That's what's going to happen. And I know a lot of people aren't, I don't want to do that. They're not targeting you. It's what you said, Tim. It's your buddy that used to play games, but now he's married with 3 kids and he works his 9 to 5 and he doesn't have an Xbox anymore, but he remembers back in the day when he used to play Halo. Now you've made it way more convenient for him to be able to play a game. That's who they're targeting. That's what all this is about. So to me, it's exciting because I'm a nerd and I love all this future tech, and I love being on the cutting edge of what eventually, like 10 years from now, it'll just be commonplace, in my personal opinion, right? But to be in these early days and to kind of see where it's going is pretty exciting to me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, me being very similar to you, very tech focused. I care about that stuff. I want to be on the cutting edge. Like, I really care about resolution and all of that stuff, Dolby Atmos, all of it. So it's like, this to me is something that I am not personally that interested in, because I want to play games in 4K. I want to play them in as high frames per second as possible. I want XYZ, lossless audio, all of this stuff that you're not going to get right now from cloud gaming services. But I can apply that same logic to movies. And I am, to this day, still a 4K physical Blu-ray purchaser. I care about that stuff. It is like a big part of who I am. Having said that, there are so many times that I'm like, oh, we're going to watch this movie for in review. I'm not even going to go get it off the shelf and put it in. It's on Netflix. Let's just watch it there, because it is more than just good enough. It's really good. And I think that despite not being the target audience for this, I have very specific use cases for how I'd want to play 1080p Xbox games, just because it's just slightly easier. And sometimes slightly easier can be the biggest sell to somebody for something, especially when you think about the price of this thing. It's probably going to be what, $50 or less?
Right.
That's that is like the best part. We've already made the investment. We already have the controllers. We already have Game Pass. So it's like, if we just need this one little thing that'll allow the TV to be able to play these games, if we even need that, eventually I imagine they will partner with LG, they will partner with Sony, they will partner with TCL and all the other big TV companies, so that when you go to a Best Buy and you're the moms and dads out there like looking for a TV to buy, like, I guarantee you within the next couple of years, in the same way that they have the stickers on the TV that's like, this has all these fancy features, the gaming hub is going to be something that they push. You're going to have an Xbox controller next to the TVs to be able to just buy. They're going to sell you bundles, man. They're going to sell that so easily. It's like, oh yeah. This comes with Game Pass, and it comes with this, and it comes with that. And then that's how they're going to sell those TVs.
Yeah. It'll be bundled, like you said, with a controller in like 3 months of Game Pass, right? So you can try it out. But I'd also say along those lines, if you notice the other thing that they've started to do, which makes sense, Fortnite, free to play. You don't need Game Pass.
Yeah,
they're giving you, like, not giving you, but they're allowing you to play Fortnite over the cloud. I'm sure Apex and things like that are also going to be a part of it as well, to where we're not going to charge you, quote unquote, up front to be able to jump in and have this cloud experience. You can get in on a free to play game that's probably honestly the most popular game in the world right now anyways. And if you want to go spend money on microtransactions, that's up to you, but that's to get you in the door. Then you get used to it. Well, what else can I do? Oh, now maybe I do subscribe to this Game Pass thing, and I have all these other games I can play too. So like I said, it's exciting to see where it's headed, because I can see where it's going. I mean, we're clearly not there yet, but this is the start of it, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Guys got me excited and smiling from ear to ear, thinking about the future. And it's always great to have Tim on, because he's a man all about tech like you, Parris, and he's excited about the tech future. But I also want to talk about the future and maybe some Activision/Blizzard franchises that need to be revived in the future, because we have Tim Gettys on here. But I'll tell you about that in just a moment, because this is the Kinda Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget, we here at Kinda Funny Games are now Epic partners, which means you can go out and use our Epic Creator Code KindaFunny at checkout. Whether you're buying V-Bucks from Fortnite, buying a season pass on Fortnite, or buying games off the Epic Games Store, please consider supporting the team in a brand new way. It's no additional cost to you, and you can just type in that code KindaFunny at the end for your Epic Games purchases. Also, we'd like to thank our Patreon producers for the month of July. Thank you so much to Fargo Brady, Delaney Twinning, James Hastings, Casey Andrews, Gordon McGuire, and Al Tribesman for all of your support over on Patreon. This week, the KindaFunny Xcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN, MeUndies, and Athletic Greens, but myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Let's talk about the future, guys, but also look back at the past, because Tim Gettys, I brought you on to this week's KindaFunny Xcast because we have a little bit of sad news that I know is very near and dear to your heart. Back in June 2022, Tony Hawk Pro Skater fans got a little bit of love, or back in June 2021 or 20, you got some love. Tony Hawk Pro, thank you. Tony Hawk Pro Skater fans got, of course, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake, and you loved that, Tim. I remember it was your birthday. You were having a ton of fun. But then, unfortunately, after that, Vicarious Visions was then merged into Blizzard Entertainment.
And I thought we to say murdered.
Murdered.
They were then murdered.
They were merged. And of course, we were all sad because on a recent Twitch stream over with Andy THPS, Tony Hawk, the actual Hawkman, was there and shed some light on what could have been a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake. The quote that went around was, I mean, that was the plan. You know, even up until the release date of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, we were going for 3 and 4. And then Vicarious got kind of absorbed and they were looking for other developers. And then it was over. Tim, I turn to you. Let's talk about Tony Hawk first. Of course, you got the remakes that you wanted. Sad news with 3 and 4 after Vicarious Visions. Do you think that Phil Spencer should revive and save the Tony Hawk Pro Skater name?
Well, let's start there. Yes, I do. Now, but going all the way back to the beginning, I say this a lot when I'm talking about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake and why I love it so much, why it is one of my favorite games of all time. Like this remake is, I think, the definitive Tony Hawk experience. And I feel like if they were to apply that to some of the better concepts and ideas that the Tony Hawk franchise has had, like things like Tony Hawk's Underground, we could have had something incredibly special that could have potentially built to getting a brand new game with new levels, not just going back to the ones that we know and love. But the 90s and early 2000s, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater wasn't just what it seems like now, which is like, oh yeah, it's just another video game. It was like one of the biggest franchises where it was annualized, and that was exciting to people. These games were getting 10 out of 10s. Like infamously, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was one of the best reviewed games of all time. And it's funny to think about that now because it just seems like, oh, skateboarding games, what is that? But it just, they represent a different type of, a different time in video games. And I feel like it's a time that I am clearly very nostalgic for, but there is a quality there that stands to this day. And I feel like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake was a perfect example of that. The game was fantastic. It took everything that made the original 2 games special, but it modernized it and added even more. Like one of my favorite things was they had the majority of the soundtrack to the originals, which is one of the most iconic video game soundtracks of all time, especially on the license front, introduced a whole generation to different types and genres of music that they would have never listened to. Like the amount of different genres I listen to now simply because of Tony Hawk, I can't even count. But they also added a bunch of new music that is in the vein that like would have been on the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtracks back in the day. And I love that. It introduced me now into even more new music and more new artists that I listen to now every day. That's the magic of Tony Hawk. It's not just a video game. It's everything that goes around it. As we went on, you know, they signed that deal. I think it was like 13 years, 13 games. And like, you know, eventually they stopped being good. And we saw a bunch of different gimmicks. We saw the Tony Hawk ride. There's a whole bunch of different things, right? A lot of people forget this. On the 360 PS3 era, there was a remake of Tony Hawk 1 and 2, just called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD. And it was trash. It was such a bad game. It was such a cash in. They didn't care about it at all. So that's why this hurts me even more. Vicarious Visions cared. They cared about every single element that went into this game. And I know we're going to talk about other teams and games later, but like when you see what happened with Crash Bandicoot, with the Insane trilogy, with the Crash Team Racing remake, with the Spyro trilogy, these games were great. They were made by people that cared, that understood what made them special in the first place. They made them better than they've ever been. And they reviewed well and they sold well. Like all of that's the stuff to me that like makes this such a tough pill to swallow. So here we are now. There's been teases for Tony Hawk 3 and 4 for the last 2 years. If you follow the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Twitter account, every once in a while, they'll put out images and they'll just be a 3+4 hidden in the background. Like they were doing stuff that was so like, oh my God, they're doing this. But it started to become clear they weren't going to do it. And then all the Vicarious Vision stuff happened where Activision was just like, hey, guess what? You're doing Call of Duty, you're doing Overwatch, just like they've done time and time again to High Moon Studios, you know, to Beanox, to Toys for Bob, to all of these incredibly Raven Software, man, like so many talented studios just being thrown to just make more money in the machine. And I get it. That's what this all is. But it is such a bummer. And now, all of that tirade aside, I don't know that I believe Tony Hawk. I've heard Tony Hawk say a lot of things in my life, and I don't know how in tune he actually is with all of this stuff. Like, I'm sure that at some point they had mentioned a 3+4, but like, I don't know. Like, he made it sound like it was inevitable and it was going down. I don't think it ever actually got that far. But it's still a bummer to think about that it could have been, because what's next would have been Tony Hawk's Underground, and that would have been incredibly special. And at this point, I think that the right move is for Phil Spencer one day to bring back a Tony Hawk Underground remake, reboots even, I would be cool with, but I think they can do it. And it's going to be really, really, really weird to play a Tony Hawk game on an Xbox controller, but I'll make it work.
Be kind of dope right there. Parris Lily, I see you smiling because, you know, Tim brings a lot of passion to the subject. That's why I love Tim so much. And I do really appreciate him bringing the insights and the knowledge, right? This is a game that I grew up with over on my N64, right? I remember the soundtrack. I still have those songs on Spotify, as Tim says, and it was a big part of my childhood. And I kind of grew to become the opposite side of Tim. I'm a skate guy, right? I like the more simulated skate version that team brings as opposed to the arcadey combo-based games of Tony Hawk, but I still love them both. But, you know, when we talk about Game Pass, you and I, Parris, and we talk about the diverse lineup and all these different genres, do you see an opportunity where Phil could strike gold with a Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
Oh, of course. I mean, you know, I joke all the time on here. My kids play Skate 3 all the time. So that would just be a natural progression. Bring all the Tony Hawk stuff to Game Pass. They'd be all over that. There'd be a huge audience for that. So absolutely. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Tim Gettys, because I'm going to bring in Barrett in a moment because I know he has a very fond love for Tony Hawk, just like you. What would be the next big game that you would want to either be remade, or what's the next progression? You brought up Underground. Like, what is the next step for Phil and the team? If you were to give them the keys to the castle and say, do whatever you want, where would you go?
I mean, that's the interesting thing, is because I feel like the thing that I would want the most would be what Tony Hawk was teasing there, which is 3 and 4 remade in the exact same style that 1 and 2 were, because they nailed 1 and 2, and because Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3, and to an extent 4 have similar gameplay styles. And like, honestly, 3+4, I was almost convinced that Tony Hawk 1+2 was just going to get a +3 DLC and then a +4 DLC, and that would have been fantastic. Like, I feel like they were set up for that and totally could have worked. Then it took long enough that wouldn't have made sense. It should have been its own release. Unfortunately for me, in a way, I think at this point, it would be Tony Hawk's Underground that I'd be looking for. I think that is the thing that would make the most sense to introduce to the Xbox audience and for a Game Pass type situation. And I feel like my dream would have been 3+4 happens and then Thug, but I think Thug would be the right move now.
Okay. Barrett Courtney, I know you have been holding your breath back there because I know you want to jump to the producer's table and talk about this. What do you think, Barrett? What should be the next move here? What would you bring into the franchise here?
As far as Xbox's like business sense move of like what would make most sense for them, like I agree with Tim of like just continuing down the line of going back to the classics and continuing on with like 3+4, I think makes the most sense. I'm like Tim, I would really love Underground, and you know, I'm also very selfish, so like I want Underground 1 and 2 together. I want I want to get to American Wasteland and all that stuff. Which
then we can stop. Then
we can just make something else, you know. Then we can maybe look at the DNA of what made those games special, that era of games special, of the Underground American Wasteland era and the original era special, and try to emulate that and make something new with it. And that's really all I need for that, you know, and to bide my time. I've got this little thing called, you know, Parris knows what it's called. It's a Steam Deck, and you know, maybe I'm already playing some of those games on there. Who knows?
Yeah, buddy.
So yeah, I'll have that to bide my time until I can kick Eric Sparrow's ass in HD on modern consoles one day.
Okay. Well, I'm getting a lot of energy from the three of you. It seems like none of you are giving the ride enough love. Like clearly you haven't kicked you haven't kick flipped a plastic skateboard through your drywall in your room and your mom yelled at you. It's like really showing from all of you. I'm very disappointed, but
and you
know, Tony,
why
tried.
You break
like, let
your
me know.
Xbox Elite controllers, Mike. Like, who are you?
I'm just saying we're going to talk about Activision Blizzard franchises that should come back. I'm going to talk about another plastic controller that definitely should come back. And if you want to bring the skateboard back, I'll buy it, just so you know, Phil. But let's continue on with this. It got me thinking, if Tim's here, we're talking about Tony Hawk, we should look forward, of course, to the future of Xbox and Activision Blizzard and that merger going on with that acquisition. And kind of what are the dormant franchises that Phil and the team should really have a look at and bring back. So I asked Parris and Tim to maybe go through the catalog and pick a couple of games that they think would be sure bet winners for the Xbox team to possibly revive, similar to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But we'll talk about that after a word from our sponsors.
Shout out to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode. I started taking AG1 because I'm not a big pill guy. I don't want to spend a lot of time on extra things, but I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of my health. Now, I've been using it the last couple months and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has a fun tropical taste that I actually look forward to in the mornings. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focused, and aging. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Shout out to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this episode. When you use the bathroom, you always close the door behind you, right? Well, you don't want random passerbyers looking in on you, so why would you let people look in on you when you go online? Your internet service provider knows every single website you visit. ExpressVPN puts a stop to this. It creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that your online activity can't be seen by anyone. I use ExpressVPN on all my devices, whether it's my phone, my desktop, everything. Anytime I'm using the internet, just because I am trying to stay as safe as possible. The best part is using ExpressVPN is as easy as closing the bathroom door. You just fire up the app, you click one button, and you're protected. It is so easy. It's the biggest button in the world. One click, you're done. So if you're like me and believe your online activity is your business, secure yourself today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. You can use our link, expressvpn.com/kindafunny, and you can get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Are people still trying to make plans with you this summer? As if you aren't booked and busy already. But thankfully, MeUndies wants to help make this summer the most comfortable one you will never forget. Because when you're living your best life, the last thing you want to worry about is butt sweat. And I know that from experience. But you know what? MeUndies has always been there to help me. I'm always wearing my MeUndies shirts, my lounge pants, my lounge shorts, my undies themselves, the socks. I'm a MeUndies fanboy. Wouldn't have it any other way. I just absolutely love have the soft micro-modal fabric. Find your ultimate summer comfort in sizes extra small all the way up to 4XL. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you out there. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off. For a limited time, if you sign up for the free-to-join MeUndies membership, you get 25% off your first membership item. To get 50% off your order, 25% off your first membership item, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/KindaFunny. That's MeUndies.com/KindaFunny.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Let's go down because there's some really great franchises on the Activision Blizzard catalog that I cannot wait to see what you two pick and how you want to bring them back and you think they would be winners. Parris, I let Tim go wild about Tony Hawk, so I'm going to let you kick it off. What's an Activision Blizzard franchise that you would bring back when we get this Xbox acquisition done?
All right. So I teased Tim this before the show started that I have a game. I guarantee no one's thinking about it, but when I say it, you're going to go, oh my God, yes. I remember seeing this game at the Blizzard booth at E3 2005.
Oh my
That's
God.
how old this is.
Oh my God, are you going to say it?
It never came out.
Oh.
StarCraft Ghost.
Let's go,
No way.
dude.
You're really
Fantastic.
going with Ghost?
Fantastic call, Parris. Oh,
Dude.
yes.
Dude, that to me, I remember so badly wanting that game back then. And then for whatever reason, obviously Blizzard canceled it and it never came out. But, and for those that don't know, this was like a third person stealth shooter game, sci-fi shooter game, obviously set in the StarCraft universe. I tell you right now, if you put that out and it'd sell like hotcakes, everybody would be all over that. Yeah, I would love to see them go back and revisit that and, make a StarCraft Ghost game. I just think that would be perfect right now.
Parris, that's a fantastic poll that I have not even thought about, and that's just great. It's great because it has that lineage, that legacy of the old men like us that remember the excitement for this, and then the disappointment of it being canceled. But I think that there's an extra element here, right? We're talking about Activision Blizzard, and that's two very different sides to a giant coin, right? When we're talking about the Call of Duties, and then we're also talking about the Overwatches. But when you go down of what Blizzard is, what it used to mean and what it means now, right? Of course, there's the era of the World of Warcrafts, but before that, there was just the Warcrafts, the Starcrafts. Those were huge, and those really kind of set the stage for what esports even look like to this day. And there was something powerful about the Starcraft brand. Like StarCraft was one of, earlier I was talking about Tony Hawk and the importance of Tony Hawk in the late 90s, early 2000s. The importance of StarCraft as I don't want to say a gateway drug, but like an introduction to PC gaming for a lot of console players. Like it was one of those games you heard about and it was like, no. I know you just play your Nintendo and PlayStation. You got to try the StarCraft thing. It was a genre that didn't really exist on consoles. We got hints of it here and there. There was even Star Fox 64 on the N64. But there was something really special about that felt like StarCraft was one of those video games that you had to at least try. The world was so cool. Everything about it was like the people that played it loved it, right? StarCraft Ghost was someone like me looking at it being like, I don't really like those type of games, but I love the world. I love the idea of this. And then they show this trailer where she's looking dope as hell. It's a single player based game. Like, this is what I want. StarCraft has rich lore. It has character. It has worlds. And I feel like that's what Xbox wants, right? They want to have their IP and develop their IP to one day be able to match the legendary roster that we see in something like a Super Smash Brothers or what PlayStation Studios has been able to build over the last decade, really leaning on the PS4, kind of building up those IP. Xbox right now, they're gobbling up, they're buying all these different studios out there that have so many iconic characters. But who are Xbox going to focus on? What are going to be the characters that inevitably, when they do a Smash Brothers type game, crossover type thing, who are going to be in it and who are they going to focus on? And I think StarCraft and specifically Ghost would be a fantastic pillar of Xbox's library if they knocked it out of the park. She could be right there next to Joanna Dark. Very great pull, Parris.
Great pull, Parris. I didn't think you were going to pull that, Parris, but shout out to you. And it's actually funny. You bring that as a youngster on the podcast, right? I've always heard the fabled name StarCraft Ghost, right? I've heard about the idea of taking this beloved franchise that I'm going to talk about the RTS in a moment, but taking that and going a different way, which we've seen with Halo now, and of course Gears, right, with the modern day stuff of Halo Wars and Gears Tactics, and kind of expanding that universe. And I did some research last night, watched a couple videos. I was blown away about the idea of jumping on this trend of that kind of stealth action game that was taking over the world with Metal Gear Solid at the time, and going, hey, like Splinter Cell was on that, is right. And it was like, let's jump on that with this incredible universe and franchise and see what we can do. And it was really odd, Parris, because they said it was announced and then canceled, but then not canceled, then canceled again for like good. And it kind of went on to span for like 5 years. It's interesting. You say you saw that. What do you mean by that? Did you see a trailer or did you see the game?
No, what I saw. Yeah, what I saw, and God, I'll have to pull the pictures and I'll put it on social media. I have pictures of the booth, and you see basically the promo stuff for StarCraft Ghost. I still have those pictures. And that was like 2005. And I just remember, like, there was a bit, like you said, at that time, there was huge anticipation for this game to come out. Like, a lot of people were excited for it. Again, I'd have to go back and look at the history to see why they ultimately made the decision to outright cancel it and not put it out. But all my buddies wanted it. We all wanted it. I thought it made a lot of sense for everything that Tim was just talking about, especially at that time. And like you even just said, Mike, during that era, we're talking that Metal Gear 2, 3 era of these stealth action games. Splinter Cell obviously was another one that was coming out around that time. So it would have made a lot of sense for Blizzard to put that game out. Yeah, I'm actually curious now as I'm talking to figure out why it got canceled. I'll have to go look that up.
Yeah, I mean, even strategically back then, like, things are very different now. But in the earlier days of the PS2 and Xbox's earliest days of just being in the console situation at all, those stealth 3D or third-person action games were like bangers, man. Like, that was the genre. In the same way now we talk about video games and we're probably talking about a first-person shooter, right? Like, but back then it was that third-person action, and PlayStation having Metal Gear, and Metal Gear being timed exclusive at best, but let's just say exclusive because that's what it felt like. And then on the other side, Xbox having Splinter Cell, the idea of StarCraft Ghost coming out and being a similar thing with the StarCraft brand that was going to be multi-plat was huge, and I think applying that logic to the modern times of something like a Game Pass, I think that Game Pass allows so much versatility in terms of types of experiences that they find value in giving us and that we find value in playing. And Game Pass is great for things like Sea of Thieves that are kind of like these endless live service games. But then also, I think that there is such value in smaller single player experiences that can find a home, that like the more AA type game, what we now would call AA, back then would have been the most AAA thing ever. And I feel like a StarCraft Ghost, where it could just be, Blizzard is not really known for their single player content these days, right? It is most of their games are very multiplayer focused, but we know they got the stuff. We know they have the talent there. And I feel like it could be really interesting to put an Xbox game, therefore Game Pass game, for StarCraft Ghost being what we kind of wanted back then, which wasn't a dope ass 8-hour single player game.
Yep.
That's what I want, Tim is right. And Nova would be a great character. You bring up Joanna Dark. Nova at the time would have been all that in a bag of potato chips for everybody there for sure. And the cool one is you merge now, or you get acquired by Xbox. You have id, you have Machine Games, you have a lot of talented, shooting teams that could really elevate this idea. I do look forward to seeing if Phil and this team kind of look into that, because what I'm going to bring up for mine is StarCraft, right? As many of you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, I am a big fan of RTS games, right? And Warcraft and StarCraft were the games that I grew up on, and I like that kind of fast-paced RTS compared to what we have with Age of Empires. And when I look over at StarCraft 2 and we think about where that currently is to this day, right? And we'll talk about Heroes of the Storm later. This is kind of the on-the-bench franchise, right? They're not going to support that anymore with gigantic purchasable content, anything that will change the game. It's really just kind of alive, and you can play it and you can enjoy it. And it's just going to kind of float on by. I do look to see if Phil is willing to dive a little bit deeper into the RTS genre and see if we can get a Warcraft 4 or a StarCraft 3, because when we think about RTSs, we've been really lucky on the kind of Xbox side to have Halo Wars and really get people into it on the console version. I think now I'm willing to say it, Parris Lilly. I'm all right with if you were to put out a game on console and say it's mouse and keyboard only and it's StarCraft 3, let's say, I'm going to be all right with that. I know a lot. We're very hesitant to do that. We've never really seen a mouse and keyboard only game on the console. But when it comes to this, I think they got to double down and maybe try to dip back into the well again with StarCraft. That's currently just kind of floating
I'd push back on what you're saying. Trust me, I totally get what you're saying on that. That they have such an initiative on the PC side right now to make a StarCraft 3. I'm putting it on PC first because you want to show that commitment to PC. Now, does it eventually come to console and maybe you just straight up say, look, we're not going to support controller. It's going to be, we'll put it on the console, but you're going to have to do mouse and keyboard on controller as well. I think that's fair, but I would see this launching on PC first. Great. And dedicated to PC with everything that PC could bring to a StarCraft 3 versus putting it on console, mouse and keyboard. Because like you're saying, I think there'd be a small percentage that would actually embrace it on console if it was only mouse and keyboard. But I think that's obviously the way to play it. So I don't think they should compromise it if they were to put it on console.
They get a huge win with this acquisition on the PC side, like you said. I think StarCraft and Warcraft, for sure, on the RTS side of things, are really going to bolster that Game Pass PC lineup, which I'm excited about. But I do look, right? Age of Empires 4 just came out. I want that on console as well. I am a PC player, and I've played it over there, but I do want us to dip into the well a little bit more of bringing more of these PC-only games onto the console experience. Maybe allow people to live out that fantasy and play some of these games that they've never gotten really to jump into.
But see, that's actually an interesting one that you bring up, Age of Empires 4. I mean, clearly there's a reason we haven't seen it on console yet, and I think it might be trying to translate that to a controller experience isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. So it's not showing up yet to the point of what I'm saying. I would love to see Age of Empires 4 just, hey, it's on console, but it's mouse and keyboard. If you don't want to do that, go play it on PC. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I'm kind of with you that I don't think that they will, but it's interesting that Xbox does have the strategy where they're okay with games being on PC only or even first, right? We got Microsoft Flight Simulator coming out on PC. Why? Probably because of its lineage on PC and people, associate Flight Simulator with that. But then it did come and was a hit on Xbox. I guarantee that they want to get it everywhere, play anyway. That's the whole thing, right? But sometimes things just don't work. And I feel like when we keep talking about cloud and all that stuff, like at some point, hopefully it doesn't really matter. You're going to be able to use your mouse and keyboard wherever you want anyways, if you wanted to do that. But I do think that they'd want to have a controller option for people to be able to play the games, because I think that's where you're really going to see the investments pay off in terms of what I was talking about earlier about building the IP, right? Age of Empires is one thing. StarCraft is another. StarCraft, I think, has the ability to have spinoffs like StarCraft Ghost that will get people excited. You can have different genres of games that are more friendly to, or equally friendly at least, to console and PC. But yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder, I'm impressed that Microsoft seemed to continue to treat the PC audience correctly by giving them new installments of the franchises they love and focusing on mouse and keyboard games, because we don't see that all the time, right? Like, I don't think any other company would be sticking to the Age of Empire franchise the way that Xbox has proven to continue to do. So it is exciting to think about what they could do with StarCraft, but I would bet money that StarCraft would be on console and PC, and that they would find a way to make it at least Halo Wars playable on controller.
Yeah, it could be.
Tim, before I let you go, I do want to pay some respect, give some flowers, and give a whole lot of love to the RTS games on console that absolutely crush it on controller. Halo Wars, I'm looking at you. Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle-earth, I'm looking at you. You were fantastic. And then I had a great one last night as I was talking with my friends about StarCraft. You brought up StarCraft 64. I just had a big giggle looking at them and going, can you believe that they put that game on the N64 with that controller and it worked? So shout out to those people who somehow figured out how to put it on one of the worst controllers of gaming history and just made it work. And it was a fun time. I loved it. It was so special.
That's hilarious you say that. I mean, earlier I was telling the story about, StarCraft kind of being like one of those like games that, when you're a little kid, when I was a little kid, it's like I had a Nintendo, but my friends had Sega. So it was like, cool, let's, go to each other's house and play the games that you don't actually get to play. I'll never forget the Joseph down the street who had the dope gaming PC, and he's talking about Counter-Strike. He's talking about Half-Life. He's talking about all the Star Wars X-Wing games, and he was talking about StarCraft. And StarCraft was one of those ones where you're like, what is this experience? And I remember hearing it was coming to N64, and I'm like, well, this is my chance. And I rented that from Blockbuster, and I think it was one of the only games in my life that I ever took back before it was due.
I knew you would say. I knew you were going to say that.
Bro,
yep.
This is not working on this controller. What are they thinking? But I think that they can make it work with modern controllers just a little bit better.
Tim, we talked about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Of course, I asked you to go into the well and look at some of these dormant franchises and see what you would like to revive with Phil and the team.
I brought this up earlier a little bit. I think that one thing that Microsoft is lacking at the moment that would really bolster something like their Game Pass offering is the kind of 3D platformers, right? It is the things like, we talk about Banjo a whole bunch, but it is the things like the Spyros and the Crash that, like, again, have proven success in recent times, getting great reviews and selling super well. There's an audience for it. And I think that audience would be very at home on Game Pass, right? Having these smaller titles where there's remakes of old ones or new iterations like we saw recently with Crash 4. But it's not just those 3D platformers that I think can have a great home on Game Pass. I think a big one I want to bring up is something that Activision's been known for to varying degrees of quality over the last, maybe 2 generations ago, which is the partnering with things like Spider-Man, right? Where we saw all the different Spider-Man games, the Web of Shadows and Shattered Dimensions and all of them, right? Again, varying qualities. Then we have the Transformers games. High Moon Studios absolutely knocked it out of the park with these licensed Transformers games on the 360 and PS3 era with War for Cybertron, Fall for Cybertron. And then there was even a weird one that was a tie-in to one of the Transformers movies, but with the universe of the Fall for Cybertron universe. It was like some multiverse Transformers shit. And that one was okay. But High Moon Studios were absolutely one of the most talented groups out there and taking an IP, taking everything that makes it special and making it a super fun video game that felt at the time modern. I think for nowadays in 2022, it would have to be a lot more than what these games were. But I think that from a single player standpoint, these games were awesome. The Transformers brand is awesome. I love Transformers. And I feel like people have their thoughts every which way about the franchise as a whole now because of the movies. You can't deny how popular those movies are. And popular movies result in games selling well. So there's already that factor, right? There's also nothing cooler than a robot that turns into a jet. The only thing cooler than that is being able to play a video game where you get to do that. So I want to see a return to this type of thing. And I want to see some of the more like obscure kind of IP pulls as we see Marvel get gobbled up and, the Star Wars and all this stuff. Everyone's licensed here, there, whatever. There's so much out there. The Hasbro alone being able to partner with different Activision teams, I think we can get something special from.
I like that, Tim. I'm always down for some Transformers. And I'm telling you, Barrett right now is currently, if you're watching on YouTube, he's been playing in-game footage of a number of different Transformer games, and it gets me excited. I'm willing to jump on board with you on this one, Tim, and say I would be down for a Transformers game for sure. Parris, Lily, you on board with this?
Oh, 1,000% I'm on board with it. And if you would allow me, I want to throw another game. I actually have 2, but I'll hold one.
Keep it going. I want a bunch.
Both of them are from Raven Software, who underrated studio, by the way. I just want to say that up front. But along the lines of what Tim was saying when they were doing partnerships with other IPs, X-Men Origins Wolverine 2.
Oh my God.
I know a lot of people did not play this game.
You're crazy.
I'm not crazy.
No.
Hey, look, we know the Insomniac game's coming. It's going to be amazing. This isn't the issue. If you go play, it was a God of War clone. It was freaking good. It was good. I think 2009-ish up in there somewhere. I forget. Really good game. Underrated. A lot of people didn't get to play it. I'm telling you, Raven, that I want to see stuff like that. I would love to see them be able to come back and iterate off of what they did with that game. It was really good for its time.
Chucks. Okay, well, let me build on top of that because you two are kind of bringing in the superhero world, but with like franchised out IPs that you would partner with. How about I bring it back here with one that they do own, Prototype? So for me, I really like Prototype 1 and 2, but I'm going to say this real quick. Prototype 1 and 2 are the perfect middle of the road, just fine games before we preference that. They're just fine games. They're in the middle. But it came out at a time where, you know, when we look over on the Xbox side now, we don't really have superhero games. Prototype can be that. It has great traversal and momentum, really in your face and wild combat. They have the anti-hero, which, you know, Xbox loves the anti-heroes over here. And I kind of like Prototype 1 and 2. I could see that coming back, especially nowadays. But it did go up against Infamous at the time, which was a tough pull right there to go up against that one. But I like that pull there. Going on the heroes there. Parris, you smiled a little bit. Prototype, too good or not good enough?
No, that was actually one that I had in my back pocket just in case. So I'm glad you threw that one up. So I'll give my other one. Again, Raven Software. Singularity. It was a first-person shooter, sci-fi, dealt with time, disparity, all this stuff. Again, super underrated. It's a game a lot of people didn't play, obviously, because they never followed up on it. But I think it's that potential of what a studio like Raven could do. That I love the idea and the concept of what Singularity was. And I would love to see them now in a modern era with a Microsoft behind them, the budget, everything that would go with it to be able to follow up on something like that. Because for its time, I enjoyed it personally. But like I said, I know a lot of people probably didn't get a chance to play it, but I thought it was a decent game, and I thought the concept of it was really good.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up. I mean, both Prototype and Singularity. It's like they represent kind of games that I feel have new iterations that aren't sequels, but like there is like kind of a new kind of archetype for a framework even for like what those games are. Like I think the days of a Prototype, I'm going to be real, they're over. I'm sorry, Mike. I am not on board for the Prototype.
But we have a Spider-Man coming out.
Exactly my point.
Like that's why Infamous is never going to come back, Mike, is that we have the good licensed superhero games now.
And I feel like Infamous has a chance because I think that there is a little bit more like fans of it, I guess. I don't even know. But like Prototype, I think that it would have a real hard time. It would struggle alongside some of the more like modern superhero options out there. But with Singularity, I think it's interesting that, you know, I keep saying with Game Pass, like it just allows options for things that aren't these giant AAA experiences. And, you know, we have Halo, we have Call of Duty, we have so many different first-person shooters that mean so many different things, even things like Deathloop, right? Like even things when we start looking over at Arcane of like what they're up to, there are different styles of these first-person shooters. There's also the Wolfenstein games, right? There's also the Doom games. And when you start looking at those, you're like, okay, wow, they are examples of video games that in some ways should not exist in modern times. Like they are very like anachronistic to the success stories that we see, especially when you start talking about first-person shooters, like mainly focusing on single player or co-op experiences, harkening back to older times of video games and what it meant. Singularity to me is that type of thing that I feel like they could find a lot of success with a smaller type title, similar to like something like I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not even a fan at all of the Medium that we got a couple years back, but that kind of idea that's like, hey, it is a survival horror game. It's an old school type survival horror game. It's not that long, but you can play it on Game Pass, you know? And I feel like I'd want the quality to be a bit higher, but I love the idea of something like a Singularity where it's like, hey, this is an old school first-person shooter that's just going to be fun. Maybe has one gimmick, and that gimmick's going to give you a great time for the Game Pass experience to kind of tide you over until the next big thing that you're going to eat. It's just a bunch of little appetizers, some hors d'oeuvres they're throwing out at you. And I think that's the value of Game Pass when you start digging into the library of something like an Activision that, you know, in modern times, the Singularity is not going to make a lot of money, but if you make it the right type of experience, it can add a lot of value, and it can get Xbox what they're looking for and can get gamers what they're looking for.
Guys, I know a lot of people that are listening or watching are yelling at their screens because none of us have brought up Guitar Hero, and that is one of the most requested franchises to be brought back. Parris, you got kids, so that means you're buying a bunch of guitars. Tell me what you got here.
I can already sense the angry tweets that are coming my way when I say this.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
I don't want Guitar Hero.
Oh.
I think its time has passed.
Parris,
I think we're good.
Really?
I think we're good.
Really, in a world where rhythm-based games are kind of the hype right now in the VR space.
Okay, Mike.
Beat Saber,
Mike.
Pistol Whip. You're really going to say no? You don't want the rhythm-based game?
Between Guitar Hero, here's my reason. And again, I'm looking at this from a parent's point of view.
Yes.
Between Rock Band, Guitar Hero, and DJ Hero, do you know how many goddamn plastic guitars I had in my freaking house over the years of its popularity? It seemed like every year there was some new one that was coming out that you had to have. And oh my God, it was chaos. Look, here's what I think, and I'm being too harsh when I say it. Do I want Guitar Hero to come back? Yes, but this is what I want it to be. One game.
Yes.
And you release new content to that one game. And this is where I think Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard is going to help. Not only Call of Duty, but if they were to revive a Guitar Hero. I don't need it to come out every year. I don't need a new version of the guitar that has one extra button on it to come out. Give me one guitar and just new music comes out. It's DLC, pump it out that way. And that's it. I'm good. So along those lines, yes, I would love to see it come back in that sense because I had a lot of fun during his day. There's actually, if you Google it, there's a video with me, 2007 with Major Nelson. And he's teaching me how to play Guitar Hero, and I'm screwing it up the entire time. It's one of the saddest, funniest things you'll ever see.
The bad noises, Tim. Yeah, that's what it did. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I just don't want 1,000 different peripheral. I can't even say it, but I don't want 1,000 different guitars. Just one, maybe a microphone, maybe one turntable for DJ Hero, and that's it.
Okay, now you're just adding stuff on. Now you're just throwing out a bunch of items again.
I don't need 20. It's too many.
Tim Gettys, I know you and I grew up in the era. I was that kid asking for the new guitars and all of the latest and greatest ones. And I want to talk about that. It's like, when we look at Guitar Hero now, when we look forward, I'm all on board for Parris. I think Guitar Hero 1 through 3 were really great. And then all of a sudden, I noticed every single year, every other month, it was Aerosmith, the Beatles. They would just make DLC games, but standalone games of just bands. And I never got on board with that. But also, we looked at a world that was dominated then by Rock Band, which came out with a full-on band set, and everybody had to have a controller. Of course, I think Guitar Hero tried to make one with Band Hero, very similar to that. Can we go back to just guitar, Tim, or do we have to go with the whole band setup in 2022?
Here's the thing, Mike. Like, you're not going to find a bigger Guitar Hero fan than me. And I specifically say that, and I'm a Guitar Hero guy. I am not a Rock Band guy. And the reason is they are very different games. They got lumped in together for a lot of very obvious reasons. But when you look back at when this first started, I mean, go even for me dating back, rhythm games are my shit. I love DDR. I always have, and I always will. But my favorite rhythm game of all time is Amplitude on the PlayStation 2. And that was made by Harmonix. That turned into Guitar Hero. They just added peripheral, and it was awesome. And Harmonix knocked it out of the park with Guitar Hero 1, getting people hooked on this stuff. Anyone that got their hands on it was like, this is it. Then Guitar Hero 2 was just perfection. Guitar Hero 2 took everything the first one did well and just made it better. It felt better. The guitar was better. It's the best guitar I've had.
There were more official original songs.
Yes.
Remember all the covers in the first Guitar Hero 2?
Yeah, exactly. But like Guitar Hero 2 was so damn great. But then what happened was such a weird thing that was so specifically perfect for a young Tim Gettys. Harmonix went on to do Rock Band, which was such an exciting proposition, and I love and I'll respect Rock Band forever. It's just a different type of game. Guitar Hero's gameplay is arcade-based. It is skill-based. It is you playing over and over and over and failing at hard mode just to be able to eventually succeed, get to that expert, and fail till you eventually can do it. They throw harder songs at you. It was that experience of like the one more. You want to get better at it. Rock Band was about having fun. And I love that. I appreciate that. But the moment the Rock Band started, the concept of what I liked most about Guitar Hero totally went away. But then there was the saving grace. Neversoft, the team that makes Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. They were brought on back in the day. Now I'm bitching about Activision teams getting taken to go work on Call of Duty. Back in the day, it was teams getting taken to go work on Guitar Hero, right? But it worked for me because Neversoft took all the gameplay elements, that high score attitude, that like insane style and everything that I loved about Tony Hawk, and applied it to Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero 3 is my favorite Guitar Hero game because that's the one where they were like, yo, we're about having fun with the challenge. That is the one with Through the Fire and Flames. That is the one that just went insane with the gameplay itself. And then after that, I kind of kept iterating, kept going, and it really, really like lost the sauce, right? Like Mike, you were saying. I don't know that it makes sense these days. I think the Guitar Hero, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart, is a niche enthusiast thing that I know that I can go on eBay and find a modded guitar right now, and I could probably download some version of Guitar Hero. You can put any song you want, and there's all that stuff. I think that that is the right place for Guitar Hero as a franchise, because I think that any Guitar Hero you're going to put out nowadays, I mean, they tried it with Guitar Hero Live. They changed too much. I did not enjoy that experience. I just didn't like it. It wasn't Guitar Hero. I don't know that Guitar Hero, even if they authentically nailed it nowadays, would be worth the investment, and it definitely wouldn't be worth the shelf space.
That's what I have written down is not the Guitar Hero Live guitar, right? I think they took it too far with that conchar for me personally. I'm looking for the OG, either 1 or 2, preferably that white and black electric guitar with the whammy bar. That was my favorite one of all time. But like, I'm on board with Parris. I personally, on my side, I would love for them to do Guitar Hero, but I am like Parris, where it's one guitar, one game, no, nothing else. We're not going overboard with this. We can't get lost in it. And I do want to see if they could elevate online, right? I think back in the day, it was me and my friends sitting down in the living room, passing the guitar or playing 2-player with 2 of them. Now we're kind of in a different stage where everybody does it from home, right? We're all online. Could they really elevate the online side of a Guitar Hero to make that engaging with your friends and make it somewhat fun, because we're not really in the same living room as much as we used to be. There will definitely be off chances, couch co-op, families, but like a lot of us will be online playing with our friends. Can they make that fun as well? So for me, Guitar Hero, I'm all on board.
Hey, Barrett, I sent you something on
Slack. Are you going to play? I literally wrote in the notes, just so everybody knows, for episode 100, we're having Major Nelson on, and I wrote, get the video of Major Nelson and Parris on for the next
here we go. All right, hold on.
We'll play it twice. Let's run it up, y'all.
We'll run it up. Just prepare this here.
Now, Parris, as he sets this up, once you set the stage, where are you? Why did you get handed this guitar with Major Nelson? What happened?
So we are at Xbox. We're up at Redmond. This is 2007, I believe. Was this Crackdown? This might have been Crackdown. I think it was the Crackdown 3
event. That's the Crackdown logo behind you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's why we were there. And, you know, Major Nelson, he gave us the whole tour, got to see Xbox Live, the whole thing. And for whatever reason, it was like, hey, come play Guitar Hero. I'd never played Guitar Hero before in my life until this moment right here. I just set that up. That was it.
And hold down red. Blue and green. Oh, okay. Green. Yeah. Green.
This is how you teach people.
Major Nelson teaching Parris Lilly live on the video.
I look like such an idiot. I'm just,
There you go.
It's awesome because that is the Major Nelson we know. Enthusiastic, yelling at you to get better. The cruise director, as he called himself back in the day.
I love this.
That's Parris, look at your smile. Look at all the contagious fun you're having. You're having a good time doing this.
Yeah, I was a little thick back then too.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, that was horrible. I remember I had no idea what I was doing.
That was awesome.
Barrett, I'm actually going to send you a video too real quick.
As he gets that set up, Parris, I'll look to you as my gaming dad, right? We talk about the kids. Would your kids be into this? Do you think the Guitar Hero resurgence could happen with the younger generation?
No, I do. I do.
Got the experience?
I do. My oldest daughter, going back to those days, would play. She loved it. Okay. So, but I think, you know, my son and my youngest daughter weren't, were obviously too little. back then. But especially my youngest daughter, I for sure see her and her little crew picking up the guitars and having fun with it. So I 100%, being serious, think there is a market for Guitar Hero to come back. I think, going to your point, what I was saying before is, don't beat us over the head with new version every year. Make one version of it, add the DLC into it, and I think they'd be good to go. I think that could be sustainable for them. I just think they started beating us over the head every year with the new Guitar Hero, and they just burned everybody out. Yeah, and Rock Band. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And even when they came back, they both came back at the same time. It's like, it was just too much. Mike, you alluded to this earlier, but I do think that the future of a lot of this stuff is VR. And I think that things like Beat Saber are kind of the natural iteration of these rhythm games and the peripheral-based things going. Because I just think that despite the fun still being there, and I wanted to be completely clear, if they came back with Guitar Hero, I'm there day one, and I'm going to be so stoked about it. And I'm just saying, business-wise, I don't think it's a great decision. I'm going to be buying it, and I'm going to play the hell out of it. And then you're going to hear me on podcasts talking about it just the same way I talk about Tony Hawk. But this video real quick, this is 7 years ago. This was the first time I played the Guitar Hero live. So when they brought it back, and the funniest thing about this video is 7 years ago, 2015, we were the first people that ever asked to do a Let's Play for our preview. So instead of just doing the preview and going back and writing an article about it, we're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to record us playing and then just post it. And they're like, all right, I guess. That's so weird. This is the #1 highest viewed video on Kinda Funny Games in history. 1.5 million views.
Wow. Amazing.
So fucking funny. I wish we can get that more.
With that new controller that went to 6 buttons, 3 on top, 3 on the bottom right there, which was funny. And then you're doing live music videos, essentially. You're in the music video as they're doing that, which is funny to see as well.
Yeah. But there was a lot of cool stuff here, but it didn't land, man.
As we go around the room right now, we've gotten to share some great stories and some awesome franchises that come back. I'll ask you guys before we move on, do you have any others in your back pocket that you'd like to share with the audience that maybe you think people are screaming at the screen about right now that needs to come back? What would you bring out?
I mean, because Tim, you already kind of lightly touched on it with Spyro. I think that's another one that when we talk, kind of the platformy third person type of games, I think that one makes sense potentially to bring back. I know Spyro kind of got tied into the Skylander stuff, and again they burned it out. But I like to see that go back, and we know Crash is going to be another one that we're going to see moving forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, jumping on that even more, I am a huge Crash fan, and I understand what those Crash games are, and I think for the most part they're good games. They're not great games, and I think there are some great elements of some bad games. There's a whole lot of top quality when it comes to Crash, but with the Reignited trilogy, and then with the success of the Kart Racer, which is one of my favorite kart racers ever, and then we got Crash 4, and then on the other side we got Spyro Reignited trilogy. We never got that Spyro 4. Crash 4 is legitimately a great game. It's legitimately an amazing game. It's a fantastic platformer that it's not perfect, but it's really damn good. And I think that in modern times, it's really damn good. We can get that for Spyro. We were robbed of a Spyro 4. It was inevitably going to happen. And I don't know who was going to make it, whether it was going to be Toys for Bob or Beanox or Vicarious Visions, but someone was going to, and they were going to care, and it was going to be awesome. I think that that's still going to happen one day. And I think that I was talking about this earlier. I feel like Microsoft is kind of lacking those mascot video game characters. And I know that their era of the 90s is gone, but characters are timeless, man. These are the things that Microsoft needs right now. So it's not just a bunch of white dudes on box art. You need some pop. You need some things different. And I think that with Banjo, obviously on the Microsoft itself side with Rare, but Banjo, Crash, Spyro, they can build something like PlayStation had in the PS3 generation, PS2 to 3 generation, where they had Sly, they had Jack and Daxter, they had Ratchet and Clank, and they were all allowed to eventually play together in a game. That game wasn't that great, but the idea of that game, so much potential. And I think that if Xbox plays their cards right, a Crash Spyro crossover could be freaking awesome. We've seen it before on the Game Boy Advance, and it was freaking awesome. They could do it again, and I think they can do it, especially. I keep talking about Game Pass, and I know how tired it all is, but it's the perfect home for this type of thing, for these smaller experiences that, I mean, even when Crash 4 came out, it wasn't a full price game, right? Like they already knew that these games are the new era of AA. Let's have some fun on Game Pass.
I have two that I want to end the conversation and show with. Number one that just got recently put on the bench over at Blizzard that a lot of fans are, of course, sad to say goodbye to, but still able to play, is Heroes of the Storm. Heroes of the Storm is an awesome MOBA, and it is so much fun to play over on the Blizzard side. This is probably one of the most approachable and beginner and newcomer welcoming MOBAs that I've ever played in my day. It is fast, it's fun, it's colorful, it has all of the iconic Blizzard characters that you want to see, from StarCraft to Warcraft, the Three Vikings and beyond. And I really thought that Heroes of the Storm was a great alternative to people that wanted to get into MOBAs, whether they want to try League of Legends and Dota and beyond, or people that say, you know, League of Legends and Dota are a great game. I love playing those MOBAs a lot, but sometimes I don't want to just grind for 45 minutes to either win or lose and just kind of feel like my day is melting. I felt like Heroes of the Storm really found a great balance and blend of a little bit faster gameplay, a little bit more relaxed and engaging gameplay than just focusing on your lane. And I really will miss Heroes of the Storm. I know it's still playable, but it is on the bench. And that's one game that I wish they didn't let go here over on the Blizzard side. It reminds me of Pokemon Unite on the Nintendo Switch, where it's like, oh man, I can get all of my friends to try this MOBA out, where it's not as just difficult and grindy to learn as Dota and League of Legends. But Heroes of the Storm, I will miss you. And Phil, if you hear this, maybe have some conversations. Let's save Heroes of the Storm. That would be dope. And also, we can bring it to console as well, just like Smite. We'll talk about it. Parris, what do you got for me?
So I'm going to take it slightly different off of this theme of what we're talking about with Activision and Blizzard. As much as I would love to see some of these old IPs come back, you know, it's funny as we start talking about some of the studios that have made them. I mean, you know, we talk about Raven Software. I would love to start seeing these studios be able to unlock their full potential and make the things that they want to make. So when we talk about a Raven, we talk about a High Moon, let's decouple Vicarious Visions from Blizzard and make them a standalone studio again. Who else am I thinking of? I think of Treyarch. I think of Sledgehammer. I think of Infinity Ward. Like, all they've been doing the past decade or so is making Call of Duty games. Let them make something else. Let them do something else. And this is where I was alluding to before. I think Activision Blizzard being acquired by Microsoft, when that deal is done later this year, early next year, we already know Call of Duty sounds like it's going to take a little bit of a break, but we don't have to keep pumping those kind of games out every year, right? Let those studios go off and do a passion project that they want to go do and see where it takes them. We were just talking about this on Gamertag Radio last week, where, you know, you look back in the history of Microsoft, you look at Bungie. Why did Bungie leave Microsoft? Because they didn't want to just keep making Halo all the time. And look where Bungie is now, obviously with the Destiny franchise. They're about to put out a new IP, the whole thing. You see this play out over and over throughout game development, where these studios that are basically locked into one franchise year over year, you start to see high turnover at the studio because the devs working there don't want to keep doing the same thing. They want to go do something else. So that's kind of my hope that comes out of this with Activision Blizzard, is now these studios are going to be able to allow to do other things. Like, I think even inside of Microsoft right now, look at the Coalition. They're the Gear studio, but their next game isn't Gears. It's going to be something else. And I think that's good. That's healthy for the studio, that they're not just making the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Parris, and I'm right there with you. I think even taking it a step further, I'm very interested in when this all goes down, how they're actually going to keep the teams, or how they're going to shake the teams up, or what that's going to look like. Because the story is a little different with all of them. Like, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but like, Raven still exists, right? Like, Raven is still a studio that exists.
QA. And they're more of a QA studio now.
And Beanox still exists. Vicarious Visions doesn't exist anymore. Neversoft doesn't exist anymore. Like, those people were moved over.
Absorbed.
I wonder if there's a possibility of like Toys for Bob, like members of Toys for Bob, Beanox, Vicarious Visions, all or formerly Vicarious Visions, coming together, maybe making a new thing, or maybe making a different studio underneath either Activision or Xbox Game Studios as a whole. I mean, this is getting so like convoluted and confusing. At what point is it going to be Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard, and then things fall down underneath them? Or eventually is it going to just be, these are Xbox Game Studios, and we might lose some of that extra branding on top of it? I don't know if it matters that much at the end of the day, but I do think that it does matter in terms of the who's doing what and how we think about the way they make games. When you compare it to PlayStation, right? Like we talk about their studios, and it's a lot easier to be like, all right, cool. Here's different teams. We know they have multiple teams within their studio, whatever it is. But with Microsoft, we're talking at this point about what, like 30 different studios? Like,
one's Activision, man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think to your point on that is I don't think they'll completely get rid of the names. Like as example, Bethesda, there's a legacy there. So I think there will always be a Bethesda studio, just like I think there will always be a Blizzard studio. Even when, dive deeper into the Activision stuff, I think you'll always have an Infinity Ward, always have a Treyarch, because there's a legacy behind those names and those studios and some of the things that they produced over the past couple of decades. But, going back to my original point, I'm just hopeful that we see more passion projects happen as a result of Microsoft now having 30 plus studios and them having more room, to do unique things. I mean, hell, look at Obsidian right now. And I've said it on the show before. I'll say it again. We will look back at the acquisition of Obsidian as probably one of the more important ones in the history of Xbox. And look at what they're already doing. I mean, Grounded, it was a passion project. 17 people started that. And I'm going to screw up the name. The one they just announced starts with a P. I'm screwing it up. You know what I'm talking about.
Gosh darn it. Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, another passion project.
Right. Another passion project. We know they're doing Avowed, so we're probably going to see more on that. Eventually, knock on wood, they'll come back to something that people want, which is going to be Fallout New Vegas 2. Right? Hopefully.
Yes.
But that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowed, like, what was it called? Alpha, was it Alpha Protocol? Is that the name of it? Yes. That was an old Obsidian game. It was great. It was buggy as hell, and it didn't do well. This is where Microsoft can come in so that Obsidian, studios like Obsidian have the backing that they need to go to properly fund and QA these passion projects that they're going to have. And like I said, with this Activision one, I hope we get to see more of that, hopefully, but we'll see.
Parris, Tim, that was a great way to end this week's episode. And that's how we'll cap it off right there. Of course, I want to hear from you in the YouTube comments down below or over on social media. Of course, tell me some of your beloved Activision Blizzard franchises. And most importantly, what do you see the future of some of these incredibly talented studios working on awesome passion projects, as Tim and Parris ended it off with? Some of your dream projects that you'd love to see. With that, this has been another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast. Parris, my big gaming dad, you're incredible as always. Please get better. Tim Gettys, I'm going to tell you right now, you brought the energy this week, my guy. You brought the fun, you brought the smiles, and you were a perfect replacement for Gary Whitta, who is out this week. But next week, we will all be back to celebrate episode 100. I gave you the hint. Major Nelson will be in the building to celebrate, and I'm going to do my best to get Alana Pierce on the show as well, because she is a vital part of this team, but she's very busy. So we'll see if we can get her as well. But you're going to have the whole crew here for episode 100 next week with a whole lot of stories from myself and Parris, if he feels better, down in LA, hosting a really awesome Xbox and Kinda Funny event. So we'll tell you all the fun stories about. But with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves and have fun. See you, everybody.
We're all going to In-N-Out.
Yes, I want that.
Congrats on 100, Mike and Parris. Congrats, guys. It's so cool.